So, hello and thank you for joining me. So, I'm going to be talking you through the nomination process for this year's Stars of Teignbridge Awards. So, first of all, if you make your way to the Teignbridge CVS website, so it's just teencvs.org.uk, and then to projects and down to Stars of Teignbridge Awards, hopefully self-explanatory. And here, has that screen changed for you, or if you could give me a little nod? Yep, lovely. Okay, so at the top you can see some important people. So we've got Moira here, who is the Deputy Lieutenant. This is one of the volunteers with Life Chance Trust, I think. Is that right, Heidi? I don't know this lady. Or I think actually she was from, so Sally here and this lady are from Dawlish Community Transport, which won our Organisation of the Year in 2024. And then they handed that over to the Life Chance Trust. So we've got Hannah here, who's the CEO, and Heidi, one of their volunteers, and another Chloe on the end who works for them. And then me in the middle in my sequence. So I'm just going to start with that point there, because I have always get lots of questions about dress code. And my answer is to use this as an excuse to get your sparkly dress out. We don't have enough reasons to do it, so any excuse. So if you scroll down the page, so you can see some of our other winners here from the Makery and the Alice Cross Centre. And there is a video here that talks you through the vision for volunteering and the themes from it, which forms the categories for our award. So it gives you a bit more insight into what we're actually looking for, and I'm going to talk us through that in a minute as well. But it just gives you an idea of what sort of thing we're looking for. And then here you can click, so it's a different form if you're nominating an individual volunteer or an organisation, and you can absolutely nominate yourself. You can nominate an organisation that you volunteer for, or that you're a client of, or that you work for. And you can make as many nominations as you like. So there's not too many rules here. And as it says here, the collaboration and experimentation categories usually get the least nominations. So the equity and inclusion, which is all about being welcoming and inclusive, always gets the most nominations. So that's the most competitive one. So if you know of an organisation or of a volunteer that fits in these categories, then that's a good place to put them. Here we've got details of, so the launch party, that's this today. There's another session like this in September, and then the ceremony itself in October, so you can see there where to get yourself some tickets. And yeah, if anyone is looking to sponsor either a category or to sponsor welcome drinks for entertainment, there's still opportunities to do that as well. So I'm going to go into the volunteer form. So it's a really simple form. You just need to give some basic information, and then you give a short answer about why you think they deserve to win an award. And so that you'll see here there's 6 different categories, and every question that you answer counts as a separate nomination. So you do not need to answer all 6 questions. You can just answer 1, you can answer 2, you can answer 4, whatever fits for the person or organisation that you're nominating. You're not going to get extra points or less points for only doing one category. So just do the ones that are appropriate. So you're much better off doing one really good answer that really answers the question than 6 that aren't so strong. So the first category is awareness and appreciation. So this is about raising awareness of volunteering, of different causes, of different charities, and encouraging more people to volunteer. So if you've got someone who has gets all their friends involved in volunteering, or has done a big social media campaign for your organisation, that's the sort of thing that we're looking for here. Or someone who's really good at sending stuff into the papers and getting publicity. The next one is power. So this is all about volunteers who are either that have really empowered themselves and doing big brave things. So Heidi, you won this one last year, didn't you? Yeah. So someone who's very empowered, or who is empowering others and standing up for people that maybe aren't able to stick up for themselves. Next category is equity and inclusion. And as I said, this is always the most popular one. So this is all about being very like kind and welcoming. But if you want to do well in this category, you need to like give something really special because it is very competitive. The next one is about collaboration. So this is about bringing different organisations, different volunteers, different people together. So because we're greater than the sum of our parts. So bringing people together to collaborate. No kind of competition and worrying, but they're going to steal our volunteers or they're going to get all the funding, but like really working together. And then experimentation. So this is about having creative, innovative ideas. So this is quite a fun category. It's one of my favourites. And finally, about boundaries and balance. And this is all about making sure, because as volunteers are really kind and generous and there's so much need out there, but sometimes they can give a bit too much and end up burning themselves out. So we want to celebrate the volunteers who know when they need to say no and aren't afraid to do it. And then there's just a box at the end for anything else that you'd like to add. So for example, if this is someone who has been volunteering with your organisation for like 30 years and they're retiring now or they're moving away, like, or if just anything else that you haven't felt able to say in the previous boxes. And then the organisation form is quite similar. So the categories are exactly the same, but there's a slightly different slant on them. So I'll just go through those quickly. So this one is about showing appreciation to your volunteers. So thank you parties, maybe they do little award ceremonies within the organisation, anything along those lines. And then the next one is about organisations empowering their volunteers. So like a nice example here might be an organisation that empowers a volunteer to take on a role as a trustee, or like helps them find employment, something like that maybe, or just taking on their feedback and ideas, like really hearing what their volunteers have got to say. And then the equity and inclusion, that belonging and community. So again, like all of our organisations are really great at doing this. So what do you do that helps you kind of sets you above the rest? And then about collaboration again, because in the voluntary sector, it can be quite competitive when we're all fighting over volunteers and funding and donations. So how do these organisations work together well? And again, this is my favourite category. So what exciting and innovative ideas have they tried? And we're not worried about whether they worked or not. It's about kind of being brave and taking risks and trying to do something different to make a difference. And then again, about the organisation supporting its volunteers to keep healthy boundaries. And Rosie, Roots Community Enhancement won this, I think, in 2024. So yeah, it's really good to have a couple of previous winners on the call today. So that is the nomination form. I'm going to stop the share. There we go. So does anyone have any questions about that form? Are there any categories that you want to know more about? Anything that didn't make sense? Okay, you are looking quite happy. Oh, Anya.
I'll kick us off with the question. Do we need to get the volunteers' permission before we nominate them?
I think it's nice to let the volunteer know, but no, you don't have to get their permission. But we will, if they are shortlisted, we will get their permission before including them in the programme or anything like that. But yeah, we don't, because it's a nice surprise, isn't it? We don't want to have to have them know, and then it's maybe disappointing if they're not shortlisted.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I think I'd just like to add that what I see sometimes is people making an overcomplicated, like overthinking the process and giving far more information, which is lovely, but like really, if you can get to the point and make sure that you're answering the question, that's much stronger for us, rather than like giving a lot of information, kind of over explaining and overselling them. Like, we just want to know what are they doing that kind of answers that question and demonstrates that they are doing that thing well. So some of our winners, their nomination has literally been like 1 or 2 sentences. It does not need to be a massive essay. You don't need to spend loads and loads of time on it. We're really looking for like that impact and that demonstration that they're doing it right. And just, I didn't say this at the beginning, but the themes are from something called the Vision for Volunteering, which 350 charities from across the country came together to decide on these as the key things to make to sustainable volunteering. So that's why they are the categories that we've chosen.